Good evening, one and all. Welcome along. It is season 5, episode number 43. It's me and it's Mike over there. How are things, Mike? Oh, I'm not hearing you at all, Mike. No, can't hear a thing.
My fault. I do apologize. It's all going on. All the technicals are happening tonight. Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, I have, and I'm sure you have, and everyone across America and Europe as well that watched the Super Bowl have recovered.
Yeah.
It's certain from what I'm seeing of the videos online, the Chiefs have not recovered. They are still partying. And to be honest with you, I'd be exactly the same if I was in their shoes.
Has Patrick Mahomes given the trophy, the Lombardi, to anyone else this year?
I know from I seen it in one of his tweets, Miko Hardman got the game ball. So that's
Lovely.
a good one. Yeah. You know what's funny about that though? I heard a story that Miko Hardman catches, the game that ends in the overtime game. And he did. If you notice, he doesn't celebrate. He kind of just runs back onto the field and is just kind of like, okay, because he was not aware that touchdown ended the game.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I think an awful lot of us were kind of called out by the whole thing. I mean, I was kind of going, right, what the hell is going on? Like, 3 seconds left. They better snap this ball, and then. They're like, no, it keeps going on. I was like, okay, fair enough. I don't know football anymore. But I mean, I'm not being paid millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars
to know the rules.
Yes.
Yeah, it is quite funny. But it's in the books. We've had a back-to-back winner, which has taken nearly 2 decades for that to happen. So here we are. Now they're on the precipice of a three-peat. I don't see it personally because, I mean, it's great that they've got these players that they drafted players who are players that needed to spend a year to progress, to get a little better. Rashee Rice is a good example of that. He needed that time. He kind of came out a little bit early, but they've got a lot of pieces. Like, if you look at the Chiefs' offense, it's lacking firepower. You've got Kelsey, all right. He's aging. They've got Rice. He's on his way up. But what is beyond that? There isn't anything. What's beyond on the offensive line? It's kind of a little unstable. And then you look at the defense, and there's like a lot of pieces that are flying out that door this year that they need to figure out. So you kind of say, what are they doing to do a three-peat? It's going to take a lot of work. It's possible, when you've got Patrick Mahomes, it's possible. Never say never. But it's a case of until we see, because like when you look at the Chiefs in the season, and this is something I was thinking about, is that Super Bowl game. It was like a perfect metaphor for the Chiefs' actual entire football season.
Yeah,
that it's slow and lumbering and flat to begin with, and slowly it picks up pace, and then slowly the offense clicks together, and then slowly all of a sudden they're unstoppable. And that's how I seen it. That game was a perfect example of the Chiefs' entire season, basically.
Yeah. And I mean, as Craig here has said, our own Craig, the defense won this year, but it's can they keep hold of it? They were close to not being in the playoffs at all. It's a weak division. And I mean, if you're honest, like you've kind of said, some of the players, Isaiah Pacheco, I mean, I think they have to give him a new deal if they're going to keep him. Sky Moore didn't play a snap, I don't think, in the Super Bowl this year.
No.
Kadarius Toney
hasn't really done much in the 2 years he's beaten there, really.
Yeah. And I mean, as Joe says, like, I mean, it's harder to repeat, especially with the salary cap. So hats off to Kansas City Chiefs.
That is very true.
And I mean, it's only themselves and the Patriots who've gone back to back since the salary cap era.
Yep.
The Cowboys were the next closest to that, and that was just it was kind of right on the precipice of going into the salary cap era.
Yeah. And it's quite, that you talk about the Patriots were the last ones to go back to back. When you stop as well and you think about it, that when the Brady and the Patriots dynasty era came to an end, we were kind of just rolled straight into the Chiefs, sort of them becoming the dominant feature in the NFL, and now they're there and they've gone to the back-to-back point now of where they're at, So, I mean, like I say, you never say never to these things, but I don't see a three-peat. But wait and see what the draft is all about, mate.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing about it is, like, oh, shit, point's gone out of my head. But I mean, I said all year, I don't know who's going to win the Super Bowl. And like I said it to you late enough on Sunday night. I thought all season it was going to be the 49ers before it went to 10-3 just before halftime.
Yeah.
And I suppose like that, they're probably going to start as preseason favorites because they still have Purdy on a cheap deal next year. He can't get a new contract until at least the end of next season.
Yeah.
So they can put pieces around him. And, maybe they're the best set team at the minute.
Yes. Like the issue you've got with the 49ers is really kind of like what you've seen. It was in the Super Bowl, it was in the Lions game, that if the support cast doesn't elevate to help Brock Purdy, and I'm not, this isn't to diss Brock Purdy. There is something that is very important that he does. I mean, we can get into it if you want, but it'll end up taking up too much time on the show.
Yeah,
but,
we're not going too deep.
Purdy does something that is very unique. He's not this elite quarterback, but he has a very good support cast. So in the things that he does well, the rest of his supporting cast, his skill positions, are able to take and run with the things he does positively.
Yeah.
The unfortunate part is, which we've seen, is there are limitations to Purdy's game. And those limitations usually end up causing the 49ers to struggle.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl was kind of very, very much close to that, where they asked Purdy to answer and he kind of couldn't,
Yeah.
It was one of those. It's one of those. Whereas the reverse side, it's almost yin and yang in this Super Bowl. So on the other side, then you have the Chiefs, who have this elite quarterback who can make the throws, make throws with, with different arm angles, and he can take the deep passing, and he's accurate with it, and he can drive down the field. But he didn't have the support cast. So it's almost a reverse of each other, of how those teams were put together. Yeah.
And I mean, as you kind of said, you're going, right, who are the elite guys on Mahomes' offense? Bark Kelsey, he doesn't have an elite receiver. Pacheco had an awful game. He's probably a top 10 running back who they might not be able to afford to keep around. So, how long more before the 49ers are going to have to look around and go, right, we've Debo, we've George, we've Christian, we have to pay Brock, we have to pay Brandon Ayuk. And I mean, you said it to us earlier, there's talk to Brandon Ayuk once out of San Francisco.
He did say it today, yeah.
Yeah. And as Stephen here is kind of saying, Brady wasn't elite when he came in. Not to say that Purdy is on that level, but no. Will get better with time, and I think that's a fair comment.
That is the next. That's obviously the next point. Then is that, and it's a very important point, is that Purdy right now, like we said, has his limitations. He's able to do what he does thanks to the sportcast, but really what the 49ers are doing now is great. It's perfect. And what Purdy can do is, while the league is all zigging, the 49ers are zagging. And that's important. That's a good way to do things. But really what they need now is, in order to remain successful, is over the, like, say, this season was a good learning season for him. He needs to again next season. And now what he needs to do while he has that support cast is to begin to evolve. So he needs to add other skill sets to his game so that once his supporting and his skill players begin to age and they no longer become as effective as they have been, he's now evolving to bring everybody else up with him.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, because, like, you say, well, can he do that? And the question is, we don't know. Like, there are players who come in with a very specific skill set, you know, that's very good. You think, yeah, perfectly fine, but they never evolve. Hence why we see so many first-round quarterbacks come into the league, have maybe not a bad rookie year and fall off. And then you get other players that completely blindside you and come out of nowhere, like Brady did. And Brady is the same situation. Is that what happened there initially? Is when you look at the roster and the team Brady had, when you think of everything, you know, even some really elite wide receivers and 2 amazing tight ends to begin with, and that team, and plus also the important thing is having a really good defense, which is important as well, because that keeps the score low. Takes the pressure off the quarterback, and the 49ers have that. The Patriots had that. So then what happens is, as it did with Brady, as time evolved, he evolved as those players moved in and out of the roster. And, you know, you get to the stage where he's holding up a hand and a ring on each finger.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, Stephen has a point here, and we kind of finished with the talk of who's the better quarterback and stuff like that. But he says Trevor Lawrence is an example of a great quarterback who hasn't done it fully at NFL level, and I think that's maybe does him a little bit of a disservice. But I get the point Stephen is trying to make, in that he's a number 1 overall pick, and hasn't, like, he got them to the playoffs last year, but not this year.
Yeah, Lawrence is in a kind of different situation altogether again. But I always say with quarterbacks is let them ride out for a rookie contract, and then you find by then you'll know exactly what type of quarterback you're dealing with. And even then, you know, you think of some late bloomers in the quarterback position. I mean, like, you know, the Rams get rid of Goff, and Goff ends up taking the Lions to the NFC Championship, and vice versa with the Lions and Matt Stafford. That you never know, unfortunately. Like, I get a question a lot with quarterbacks around this time of year, and it's getting to the point where you just kind of like, you just have to turn around and you say, this is what he's good at, and this is what he's bad at. And they go, well, you know, where do you think he'll be in his career? And you just go, I really don't know, because quarterbacks are just the biggest dart throw, because you just don't know how they will progress and evolve. And they can bloom at any stage of their career, you know.
And I mean, you and I are blue in the face saying this about everyone who's going, oh, we need to get rid of Dak, just draft a quarterback. There is no such thing as just draft one. It doesn't work like that.
No, because, like, I mean, like, the simplest argument, argument to that is to go like, okay, let's get rid of Dak. Let's not bother signing him to a long-term deal and just draft one. If it's as easy as that, I always say, why are there not 32 starting NFL quarterbacks in the league then? Because if it's as simple as just draft a guy, then every year the league should, in theory, be getting better as a group of quarterbacks, because each team is ridden of themselves of a quarterback and have just drafted a quarterback, so they're instantly better. And it doesn't work that way. You know, you see time and time again that, you know, quarterbacks just don't strike. They don't take to the scheme, the coaching, the league, the pressure, the workload. College is very depending in which conference you play in as well, can be very varied in the type of talent you get on defense.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you know, Craig is kind of saying it there, which is right. Dak has bloomed this year into a top 5 to an 8, you know, after he's recovered from his injury. And I mean, there's 20 other teams who would take Dak Prescott gladly.
It's more than that, yeah. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, like, I read one before that Dak is the first quarterback in NFL history to have led the league in interceptions one year, to then come back the following year and lead the league in touchdowns.
Yeah. I mean,
and he's the first quarterback as well to do that for the Cowboys. I know Lorne is going to tell me off. I'm going, Starbuck done it. Yeah, he did in a joint effort. It was him and another quarterback. Dak is the first quarterback for the Cowboys to do it as the sole touchdown leader.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not so much as, you know, he did that. It's this is a modern league which is pass first. You know, that's all we heard on Sunday night. Pass first, pass first, pass first. And I'm not taking a shot at the Aggies here when I say this. Stephen himself.
You're okay. You want to hurt my feelings. You're okay.
And you know yourself. He says, see Johnny Manziel, all the talent, none of the mentality. And I mean, if Jerry had it his way in 2016, Paxton Lynch would have been on this roster and Dak Prescott wouldn't have been. So you have sliding doors. But before we get off the Super Bowl, I did want to bring up something Stephen said here. And he said, you know, the 49ers' biggest strength was their linebackers. Losing Dre Greenlaw is what cost them the Super Bowl, in my opinion.
On defense,
it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah, he's very right.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because I'm sitting there and I watched the playback of Greenlaw celebrate and run on the field. I just flop like a dead fish. And you're kind of like, oof. And immediately, as soon as you say that, you know, and what Stephen's saying there, absolutely bang on. As soon as I seen it, I was like, this is going to be hard for the 49ers to adjust for, because so much of that 49ers defense is based, obviously, you've got Bosa on one side, who's really important, but it's predicated on the middle of basically the middle of the field. So it's your two defensive tackles and your two linebackers, but the two linebackers are just these guys who, they do it all, but they're fast, they're quick, lateral movement, they can cover and they can come down and clog. That's the two big things. And they're good at really both. And it's so rare to find linebackers. I know that's what we're going to talk about now.
Yeah.
It's rare to find linebackers that can come down and clog the hole.
Yeah.
But also be able to drop and cover into pass and, you know, get into zone. It's rare. And the 49ers, ironically, have two.
it is true. And I mean, Craig is saying, what a crazy situation for him. Best of luck in his recovery. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, it is true. I mean, before we segue off, I just want to make one more point about the Super Bowl. I saw Dave Hellman was tweeting during the Super Bowl suggesting that Tyron Smith goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. Dave, if you're watching, we're gonna have words.
But, yeah, he has his moments. I do love Dave. He's fun.
He does indeed. But I mean, look, it would be remiss of us not to talk about the fact that we also have a new defensive coordinator in the house. Mike Zimmer inked his deal last night. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Mike. I mean, I've been vocal enough to say I think this is a dead coaching ticket walking. I don't know if Mike Zimmer is here for the long term. I mean, a lot of people are giving out about the fact, he's been out of football for 2 years. Mike McCarthy was out of football for a year before he was with us. You know, being out of football for a year or two can have its benefits.
That, you know, and then there's people who is going, I don't know about Zimmer, and then talking out the other side of their mouth and going, but I do like Rex Ryan. You're like, same situation, same boat, different name.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get with Zimmer, like we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I get the Zimmer hire.
Yeah.
I have my reservations about it because
Yeah.
I mean, like, but at the same time, so the comment I made was Zimmer's been out the league when he was a head coach at the Vikings and he got fired. I thought that was it for him. I thought he's never coaching in the NFL again. That's that put to bed. But I also made comments about that. There are some coaches in this league who are better at being a coordinator than they are a head coach. You do see this. You see it time and time again. I think that's the situation with Dan Quinn.
Yeah.
I think fantastic coordinator as a head coach, maybe not so much. But we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see on that one. That could be the same situation with Zimmer. But what I like with Zimmer, if you want pros and cons, there are obviously to all coaching hire-ins.
Yeah.
The positive, because I just want to stick with the positive. Let's remain optimistic.
Yeah.
Is that Zimmer, when you look at it time and time again, is you look at when you think of like the Vikings defense, it's defensive backs for definite, which is something that is the Cowboys' strength now, which is weird to say. What happens with Jalen Hurts, don't know. But we got Marquise Bell. So that will be interesting.
Yeah.
But it's that, but it's also with Zimmer, and you didn't see it with Dan Quinn, really, is that with Zimmer, he will adjust on the fly. So if he sees something, he will adjust to that in-game. He won't just stick to the path and be like, no, this was our plan. This is what we practiced for. This is what the plan is. Let's not deviate. It will organize itself. Our talent is too strong for this plan not to work. That's not the mentality of Zimmer. This is what they're doing. Let's adjust. Then the offense adjusts. He'll watch it and adjust again. That's the Zimmer way. So we'll wait and see. One thing I know for sure that will happen is the offside penalties won't happen.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to penalties with Zimmer, I mean, he's going to clamp down on them big time. You will not see as many penalties on defense. That's for sure.
And I mean, like, I suppose the next big question, and I mean, you kind of alluded to it there in terms of Zimmer will make adjustments on the fly. A lot of people were kind of concerned, he plays a 3-4. That's not our strength. Mike Zimmer is a guy who uses hybrid. He always has.
That's it, yeah.
But what is Mike Zimmer defense going to look like for us?
I mean, like, but for starters, like, I think nowadays when you think of defense, I know what people talk about with base defense and like how important that can be. There's two things. Cowboys defense, if you look at it, can play both. They have personnel to be able to do a 3-4 and a 4-3 defense. But when you look at it nowadays, in both terms, it's not really something you see much of anymore. Nowadays, most defenses are pretty much in nickel all the time.
Yeah.
It's two linebackers are back there roaming around. And like you say, then you've got a hybrid guy who could do a little bit of both. Or you've got edge defenders who can play in a 2 stance and drop and play into coverage if they need to. You kind of see a mix and match of it all nowadays. In the Cowboys, when you think of how they geared up, and especially whatever they choose to do with Jonathan Hankins, and then you think of Micah Parsons, where you can put him. Sam Williams is another good example of being able to play hybrid both ways, because I know you say, no, he's a hand down in the dirt, 3-point stance, defensive end pass rusher. You go, okay, but I also watched him last season play special teams as a gunner and completely destroy the field. So we've seen Sam Williams's speed, mobility, acceleration, burst, ability to get off block on special. So that tells you that there's that. I doubt it would happen. I mean, I can imagine if push comes to shove, they could do it. Now I've seen his speed and his get off. But if you did want to put Sam Williams as a linebacker, it could kind of work. You'd have to go through a lot of coaching with Sam to get him into more of a framework, because linebackers a lot of instinct. You got to have a
Yeah.
lot of instinct of where you need to be. But I think in terms of the athletic ability he has, it would look really weird. But it could work with coaching.
Yeah. And I mean, like the standout thing for me, and I think this is pretty much what we're going to talk about, we're leading into talking about, is Mike Zimmer's main defense in Minnesota was that 2 off-ball linebacker set with Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr. So whilst Brian Broaddus has said, the one thing you do not do is let this guy into the draft room, and I would expect the door will be firmly shut on him. But you will see a return to those kind of big body linebackers, like when we had Jalen and Leighton Van Der Esch, both fully fit and at Pro Bowl, All-Pro level. That's kind of what you're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. They are missing a thumper. That thumper, that thumper in the middle, that Mike linebacker. Ironically, there's Mike linebackers in this draft, and the linebacker position, like me and you was talking about this the other week off here, that I actually quite like the linebacker position. That when you stop, and the combine's going to be a great place where I reckon a lot of Cowboys fans need to pay a lot of attention to the linebackers, not so much. The pass rushing type linebackers, but the coverage and the off-ball type linebackers, watch them.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it initially, just on paper, you go, okay, it's nice there. And you go, but when you start diving into it, you start dissecting these guys, you go, oh, wow, this guy's got something. And then you go to the next guy, and all of a sudden you've got your little box and you've got your scores on my sheets that you do. And I go, well, this guy's ticking boxes and he's got relatively good scores, Yeah. And then you go to the next guy and the next guy. And once you start diving into the linebackers, they start to impress you. It just that when you look at it initially, and we'll mention a few of them tonight, they don't pop off when you look at them, but once you start diving into them, they raise an eyebrow.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, and I mean, Stephen, I don't know if you were reading the article yesterday in The Athletic. He's asking for an offensive tackle in the first round, a linebacker in the second round, and a running back in the third. And I think what was it I said to you? It was Marius Mims, Edgerrin Cooper, and Blake Corum was who the Athletic had us drafting in a 3-round mock yesterday.
Nice.
But I mean, look, I've mentioned the name. It's what we're here to talk about tonight. It's off-ball linebackers, and we're going to start with a Texas A&M Aggie.
Okay, all right, yeah. Okay, so the first thing I always like to do when it comes to defensive plays in the SEC is who made the first team, the all-SEC first team. That ticks a box straight away.
Yeah.
And if you're a linebacker or a defensive lineman that's on there, you already get my interest. Now, I already, watching Aggies football, knew a bit. What I liked about Cooper is freshman year, it's not so much work. It's a little subtle. The next year, he gets an increase in work. He looks better than the previous year. And we've talked about this before, the steady incline. The next year, then, you see the steady incline. He gets more work, and he looks just as good again. And he has the progressive incline, which tells you he's on his way up and he's not stagnating or on his way down.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing for me. So that's ticking 2 boxes. Obviously, he's All-American as well. So maybe All-American. A very, very good play, very athletic, very quick, lateral mover, agility, speed. That, although can be a detriment to him, I mean, we'll talk about it in a moment, but the other detriment to him is that he plays as a Mike linebacker. right? And we was just talking about Mike linebackers. He does play as one. And on the Aggie defense, he did play Mike linebacker. And he has that Mike linebacker mentality. And it's fantastic because, you know, they will drop him into coverage too on those cover 1, cover 3 plays. And you see him do it, and he does it with good effect because he's got the speed, and he's also got very, very good instincts and understanding of what the defense is doing. The big problem is he plays as a Mike linebacker, but he's just barely over 220 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
He's
that's
a guy
the problem.
You need to build up.
Yeah. So there's Cowboys fans this year who complained about our linebackers already, saying that they play too light. They play, they play more. You know, we've got to stop having these safeties come in and try and play linebacker. With Edwin Cooper, you're moving not far from that. Okay, that's the first big problem. So the issue you've got is you say, okay, so can he put on weight? You can, but then you're going to lose one of the things that makes him extremely special, which is his coverage capabilities as a cover linebacker. And really, out of all the linebackers that you look at and you talk about, he is the best, right? In terms of everything, the whole package. He's not the best player. He's not the best linebacker to come out, but he's the best prospect based on the full body of work, all the skills that he has, and the red flags. So of all of those, he is the best. But the issue you've got is because of his size, he struggles to scrape, first of all. So that's a big problem. And the other issue is getting off blocks. So he will want to play because he is playing Mike linebacker. He will want to come down and fill a hole. Once he does, very much in a different way, but in a similar style as Leighton Vander Esch, they don't learn to get off blocks. They just learn to jam them. And that is what's happened with Cooper. He is, however, a very, very, very good linebacker. And at the Shrine Bowl, I was like, this is one of the best players who was there. The reason why he's gotten away with it whilst playing in college is because of his speed and his ability. He's figured out to not get on block, and it's quite clever because what happens is because he's very intelligent and he's able to recognize the defense and what they're trying to do, he uses that speed to get around blocks. So if he can do that in the NFL, which when you look at it, I think he can, possibly, then that becomes quite a big positive for him because now you understand he's not going to hold up the blocks. So you create your defensive scheme around the idea of your front four will take that on, and then you let Cooper roam and go free around blocks to get to the ball carrier. The other big thing as well is because of his speed, and it's something the Cowboys didn't really do, even though they got a lot of sacks last year, is they don't blitz a lot, the Cowboys. But with Coop, you can. You will be able to send Cooper out because I think it was 11 sacks last year. And in the SEC, that's a phenomenal feat. It's either 10 or 11 sacks. You can have a look if you want. I think that's right. So the guy is really, really good at being able to get to the ball carrier, whether it's the quarterback or the running back. So I think personally myself that we was talking about the hybrid scheme. He fits that. You're not going to have him to come in and play as a 4-3 linebacker. And then when you think about what we have with Damone Clark, and then you think about what we have then with DeMarvion Overshown, you're going to have a lot of speed. So you're going to have to think ahead, really, about what you want your defensive tackles and nose tackles to really go out there and do. Because if you're going to have these guys do this, we was talking about the 49ers linebacker situation.
Yeah.
Like if you was to have it with these guys, with Cooper, you're having more of the chase down tackler,
Yeah.
coverage linebacker, as opposed to coming down at the line and being able to do it. Because if you are going to have him come down, you're going to have to understand you're going to have him moving around blocks as opposed to taking them on.
Yeah. He's not going to be a guy who's going to hit the line and push a center, push an offensive guard back.
No.
You know, as you say, he's not that thumper. That's his weakness. And I mean, you could say that about Damone Clark. You can say that about DeMarvion Overshown as well.
Yeah. DeMarvion Overshown, another good example of that. Yeah,
they're both undersized for linebacker. When you're talking about, as you say, that big, mean thumper off the ball side to side. But I mean, as you say, he does have that ability. He has that speed to play as a side to side linebacker.
Yeah.
And kind of to Stephen's point here, he says if we draft Cooper, you're going to have to make sure that Mazi Smith has developed and put the weight back on, because you're going to need that anchor in the middle.
Yeah. I don't get the making Mazi Smith lose weight thing. Still baffles me. Yeah. But yeah, no, agree. It's going to be, so when you're talking like with Mazi Smith, you're looking at him to take on the two gap in a lot more efficiently. You're gonna have to do that. If you're having faster, lighter, hybrid style linebackers, it's up to the front forward to take on the majority of the work of holding things up.
Yeah.
The idea is they take on the blocks. It's going to leave holes for the running back to get through, but the idea is you've got fast enough running backs. You've got fast enough linebackers to get over and cover. You know, go slow before you know is the big mentality for those linebackers as they flow in towards the ball carrier. But you get some pass rushing from Coop. You get a lot of good coverage. You know, he's proven time and again, and he was on the Aggies. He was the center part of the defense, but he was also the big playmaking guy. You know, like we had, ironically, another Texas A&M guy, but that wasn't on purpose. But Donovan Wilson for the Cowboys. You think, especially towards the end of the season, the start of the season was a little bit iffy, but towards the end of the season, he was this guy who was he was the playmaker on defense. Like you just come out, not necessarily sacks and interceptions, but he'll make the tackles at the line. He will get a tackle for the loss out of nowhere. He'll be able to get that's Donovan Wilson stuff. Well, that's not that it's the same way as what Cooper was doing, but in that sense that he's a playmaker on defense for the Aggies, and that's what he will do. And a lot of those playmaking skills that he has, which is mostly down to his instincts and his understanding of coverage and what the line, what the offense is showing him, he's able to do that on the similar level.
Yeah. And I mean, kind of Joe has made a point here, and look, it's something we do need to talk about. We need to sign a linebacker in free agency. You can't expect rookie linebackers to come in here and help us right away. Look what happened with Mazi Smith. But I mean, the question I'd have for you, and I mean, it's what I've read in most draft reports, is Edgerrin Cooper is likely a day 2 pick.
Yes.
But he is a guy who can start immediately.
Definitely. Yeah. No, he's going to be a starter from the moment he comes in. That's without a doubt. But a lot of the day 2 thing is just preference of how teams value off-ball linebackers nowadays. That's a lot. You say, is he a day 1 talent? That's close. That's like fringe. If you wanted to cheat, you could give him a 1-2. But I think that's even then being a little bit rich. You could, if you wanted to go down that road.
It does depend, as you say, it does depend on what teams need and will want out after free agency. I mean, right now, and like I had a look back on this, and I mentioned it to you in the last couple of days, but I mean, the Cowboys have a checklist of what they want in guys. Has the guy played at the Shrine Bowl? Have they had All-American honors?
Yeah, they do like their Shrine and their Senior Bowl guys.
So that, if you want to build a checklist of who the Cowboys are going for, get a list of the Shrine Bowl players, get a list of Senior Bowl players, get a list of guys who are all SEC, Big 12, Big 10, whatever it is, and you'll be very quickly able to cross it off. But I mean, if he's there at 58, and look, he could rise inside the first round very easily. I mean, at 58, I think it's a slam dunk pick if he's available.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's not a risk. It's not a, oh geez, there's red flags. There's no red flags with this guy at all. This is a guy you can come in, start, and you're ready to go from day one.
Yeah, and we'll talk about some other guys in a moment. That there's a lot of linebackers, off-ball linebackers in this year's draft that do come with red flags, but they also come with a lot of they've played a long time with, obviously, when you talk about the COVID year as well.
Yeah.
That they've been in college quite a while. Yeah. Whereas for Cooper, the snap count isn't huge. So there's still plenty of tread left on the tie, which is a big thing for linebackers, off-ball linebackers especially. Yeah.
And I mean, look, unless there's anything else you want to discuss on Edgerrin Cooper, I mean, we can move along to the next guy who definitely has had a lot of tread on the tires used so far.
Go on, and which one are you going for?
I think we're looking at Peyton Wilson here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, complete opposite there.
Yeah.
Again, another guy who, and he really impressed me in the All-Star. Like, I'm pretty certain he was the Shrine Bowl he was at. And the guy is all over the field, lateral movement, speed, ball, getting to the ball carry, chasing. I mean, the guy's just a demon that once he sees the ball, he's gone and he's going to get it. But as you say, the tread. Okay, let's start there.
Yeah.
The problem with it, so Peyton Wilson, as his skill set as a player, I would actually go as far to say, from what I've seen, he was better than Cooper. The issue is that there's 5 years of playing. Then there's the 2022, he has an ACL tear, which is big for linebackers.
Yeah.
And he's also had he's had shoulder surgery for a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got basically both elements of the body. So this is what I'm talking about with Coops. And there's very little red flags. The other guys, there's red flags. For Peyton Wilson, the red flags are the injuries, the medicals.
Yeah.
He has all the athleticism in the world. I mean, the guy, I hope we get to see it in the combine. The dude, I think, is probably going to run the fastest 40.
Yeah.
I reckon, out of the off-ball linebackers. He's going to run very, very, very fast. He's also going to have, on the hops, he's going to have big numbers on the jumps. You're going to see all of that with Peyton Wilson. Yeah. The trouble, of course, is that we don't see it. He's gonna go off for his medicals. They're gonna poke and prod him, MRIs. The guys are gonna get all of that. Now it becomes, especially for a linebacker position, it's so volatile.
Yeah,
it becomes a risk assessment for the team. You're gonna say he's gonna last X amount of years. Are we willing to spend pick number, insert number, whatever you want, and is that worth it? And I think for the Cowboys, that it's so difficult with Wilson to say where he'll land, because unfortunately you're basing everything on tape from what you can see. Then you have to deduct from what you can imagine from past players and from experience from doing it, that where he's going to be able to play, or for the distance, or for the length of time, or the career that you will have.
Yeah.
So you kind of like, that's like an early day 3 pick. But this is completely, I guess, without seeing any of the medicals. Because everything else that you see from him is fine. You could say maybe he could put on a little bit more bulk for the type of player he is. maybe some upper body strength, perhaps, which
Yeah.
in the NFL isn't going to be hard in those weight rooms and, on the programs they put them on.
Yep.
That's maybe the thing you could do. I mean, he's not, in terms of as a cover and a run stopper, one of the best that's coming out. Brilliantly fantastic. Not going to offer you very much as a pass rusher, so forget about that.
No.
But the big issue with him is the medical red flags. It's huge. And the amount of snaps. The snap count's massive.
Yeah. And I mean, look, as Stephen says here, Jerry loves an injured player in the second round.
I don't see it.
I tend to agree. Look, if they don't get a linebacker in the second round, he's there in the third. I think that's someone you're going to see. I mean, we've seen it with guys in recent drafts. I'm thinking of Nakobe Dean, a guy who was spoken about as a first-round talent. He was going to absolutely be a first-round pick. I think, did he slip to the bottom of the third?
Yeah, I think he did. But even then, when you think where they drafted him, he then has disappeared for the year. He literally didn't. I can't think of a game where he dominated or he played to expectation.
Yeah. And I mean, it is the concern, as you say. I mean, we all still wondered. I mean, I think you called it during draft week. Nakobe Dean's going to drop. There's going to be concerns because of the medicals. And I mean, this is kind of news that we when it comes out, we'll share it with you guys. But I mean, it's something to watch out for, especially with Peyton Wilson. I mean, his size, his ability, there's no question. There's absolutely no question with it. And if he didn't have those medical red flags, you would probably be talking about a marginal first-round player.
Again, you'd be hovering around where Cooper is. They'd be much closer than really what they are now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like the way we always do it, or the way I was taught, is for a minor injury, you drop them. So if they're like at the top of the second, as a minor injury, you drop them to the bottom of the second. For a major injury, you drop them an entire round. Yeah. Well, Wilson has both.
He's had two major injuries.
So you kind of have to drop him down twice, basically.
Yeah. And I mean, that's, as I say, that pushes him into that range where potentially you could get him in the third round. But unless you have anything else you want to discuss on him, we might move on to the next guy.
Yeah, because my screen is frozen right now, mate, if I'm frozen. Am I frozen on the screen?
No, I still have you.
Oh, right. Well, my screen's at the moment is just frozen. So you keep going. You're in control right now because I can't see anything.
So, I mean, the next guy we'll talk about is Cedric Gray out of North Carolina. I mean, 6'2", 235, first team All AC for 2022-2023, a team captain. I mean, this guy screams ability.
Yes. I mean, another athletic guy.
Yeah.
Very athletic. I mean, it's a common theme with these guys this year. A lot of ability there. He's, for his size and his build, when you watch him on screen for the Tar Heels, he looks squatty, which is what actually helps him, because that makes him difficult to get around because he's just so squat. He's just down there and he's like, it's like as if he's a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, just he's hard to move off. Yeah. This is a guy though who will be able to take on blocks and has an understanding of how to engage in blocks, when to take them on and when to come off them. Yeah. He's very good at doing that. And most of that isn't because of strength. It's more technique that when you watch it. And there was one clip I watched, and it's fantastic. You can see him chopping the hands and using his hands to get away with it. And it is really, really good. And when you watch it, you think, man, that's some high round type talent type stuff we're watching. And he's a good tackler as well. He's really good at tackler.
I'm going to pull you up on that one.
Go on, then.
I mean, he's 57 missed tackles across the last 3 seasons.
Okay, yes, yeah.
That's a huge issue.
He's not consistent, but he has technique.
Yeah.
So there is that. And mostly it's because he's a guy who will try and tackle guys from behind, is what he is.
Yeah.
So what you tend to get is that it's not so much he's missing tackles, it's that the running back's able to shake him off, basically. It's more like the running back is more powerful than him to get off the tackle.
Yeah.
I think he's a fine linebacker. I quite like him. But so when we're talking about is he a better player than, say, like Cooper, who I really, and it's not a bias, he's my number one off-ball linebacker. You say, so what is the issue with him not being the best? And with him, I worry about his play style. That it's so scrappy and fast, and it's accelerating, accelerate out, accelerate in, accelerate out. You let me chase, and you think in the NFL, like college is slightly different. You'll get away with it because you're going to sometimes face guys who you can overpower. In the NFL, that's never going to happen. So what I get concerned about with him is the size isn't the problem, because he's 6 foot, 235-ish pounds.
235,
Yeah, so you kind of go, okay, the size isn't the problem, but it's just the play style that goes with it, that what he does.
Yeah.
And you just say, that's not going to create a long career. Because I just think he's just going to get pummeled and beaten down.
Yeah.
And in games, you're going to look and you're going to be like, well, where's he gone? And you're just like, he's gassed out.
Yeah. I mean, like, the points I've written down about him, look, he's a high motor, high energy player, but he's a guy who plays with his hair on fire.
Yeah, he really does.
And, as you've kind of alluded to it, he has that scrappy dog, in him. But when you play like that, it doesn't translate in the NFL, because players in college tend not to run over you unless you get to playing at that elite, top 2, top 3 level, or you're in the college playoff contention, so that's the thing. He hasn't been tested to that same extent.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, totally with you on that one. Yeah, can't disagree.
Yeah. So moving on to the other guy that we said we'd discuss, who's also from the ACC, Jeremiah Trotter out of Clemson. I mean, again, a guy with the build of a traditional linebacker, 6 foot, 230 pounds, and also comes from solid stock in that his father, Jeremiah Trotter Sr., was an All-Pro and a 4-time Pro Bowl linebacker.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we spoke last week about a lot of sons in this year's draft. Another one again. Yeah. The thing with this one is, again, brilliant linebacker. The issue is he comes with red flags, and again, we're here again. So it's not that he's a bad player, that he is a guy where you have to give your risk assessment while you're at the combine and decide what value you want to put in him. So, like this, the guys like Wilson and Trotter again, are guys where I'm going to sit there and I'm going to wait, because we don't know, but you're going to wait till after the combine to get a feel for the news of not so much how they interviewed, but just like how they felt about the player, his medicals, his background, and all the rest of it. But otherwise, from that, you think he's not a bad linebacker. He is a good linebacker. Again, a fast guy,
Yeah.
Never stops. It is scrappy. You know, there's a lot you can develop with him because there's still, when you look at his frame, it's like he's not maxed out. So you've got room to play with him on how you decide you want him to play for your defense. And because you've got that flexibility with him, he becomes inadvertently, through no fault of his own, he becomes versatile in how players want. So if they want him to be a little bit more, because he's got the athleticism and he's got the power and the strength, you say, okay, let's make him this fast twitch type linebacker. You go, let's put some weight on him, and we'll get him to take on blocks and come down the line and fill the hole. So you've got a lot of options with Trotter. Just the issue is really, again, it's the risk assessment on how you want to utilize him and how that creates longevity and what value you put that then on your draft picks.
Yeah. I mean, for me, that's the one thing that stuck straight out is you're going to have a specific plan for him. He's not going to be a 3-down linebacker for us.
I see the way that they could. Like, say you had injuries and he has to fill a 3-down role. He could. But yeah, I agree. Like, more as a nickel linebacker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, sorry, carry on. I'm listening to you.
No, I mean, like the other concerns that I would have for him is, I mean, he can't pass rush. He doesn't have the ability to do it.
You're not getting any pass rush. No.
He doesn't have that higher end speed that some of the other guys we spoke about has. His footwork is not great in terms of what he can do with it. And he can be baited out of the second level to drop in to the defensive line, and quarterbacks will just throw the ball straight over his head when it's a run pass option, and it's just shit. He's been beaten. Someone's dumped the ball straight over his head, and that's not what you want. You want a guy who has that ability to look and has that instinctual, right, as you kind of say, go slow until you know, and sometimes he doesn't.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying. Just because he's just so violent, and there's what they call it, a hot motor, and he really does. It just does not stop throughout the entire game. Again, in pursuit, in chases, he's got the speed, he's got the burst, acceleration, the agility to get to the ball carrier and chase. He's, I would say, maybe not as much as Cooper, not far behind, but he's more than the other guys we just talked about, more instinctual against the run. So he's more like, he will speed past blocks when you watch him play Clemson. He kind of works around them quickly because he's able to diagnose and engage run defense very, very quickly. And then he knows he's got the speed and the acceleration to get over there quickly. So he never really engages in blocks at all. He just kind of is able to fly through the hole, get skinny, and get over there quick is what he does. He's a fun watch.
He is, but I mean, you're not gonna look at this guy in the second round. And
no.
Potentially not going to look at him in the third.
I'd agree. Yeah.
Unless
look him in the third, then that says to me that whoever takes him in the third has a very definitive plan on what they want him to be and what they're going to go make him do. But you really do need to have a plan. And I agree that he's a nickel. The more you think about it, that he can play all 3 downs. How that's going to affect him, I don't know. Those early down work, but certainly as a nickel linebacker, that works perfectly. Plus he's got the ability. He does lack upper body strength, functional strength. It's not to a point where you go, and it's killing you. Just like you'd like it to be a little bit more. But that depends again, as we're talking about him, if that's what your plan is for him. But he is able to cover slot receivers and tight ends. He's able to do that work. He's good at that. So playing him as a nickel linebacker falls right in his wheelhouse for certain. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
I mean, if we want to talk about a guy at linebacker who's going to be a run defender for you, the kind of the way I see
Go on.
Trotter is that he, running backs will hit him and he'll kind of bend at the hips and the waist.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a guy who's going to hit someone and they're going to go down.
Yeah.
You're talking about Tommy Eichenberg.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to think. There was a word I used before, and it was like, I think it was like tackling efficiency, or what did I call it before? And it's a brilliant name, and it's like, or it's ground efficiency.
Yeah,
and it's like, you say with Trotter is he's going to take the tackle.
Yeah,
he's going to grab and wrap the guy up, but the running back's still going to get 2 or 3 yards from that. Yeah, but with Eichenberg, he doesn't give up ground. So his efficiency, his ground efficiency is a lot better. And I mean, you're talking about a guy who's a lot bulkier anyway. He's more, when you look at him, he does look more of your typical off-ball linebacker who comes down in run defense. But he's not this lumbering, slow type of linebacker. He's still very efficient at moving around and shuffling up and down and across the line. And that's mostly down to, and here's the red flag, is that he's very instinctual. And he's instinctual because he's just played so much ball that he's I think he's another 5-year starter, I believe.
Yeah.
So, here's your red flag.
Yeah.
This guy, you don't have to have a plan for him, first of all, which for some teams might be what they're after. They're just like, nah, we don't want to do too much thinking on this. We just want a guy who we can put on the field. He's going to go fill the hole. He's going to stop the run. Well, that's this guy. You could just plonk him in and away you go. He's already got that bulky look to him. He's already filled out. So you can just put him in and just let him go do his thing. He's still going to chase. He's good at chasing the ball carry. He's good at getting to them. He would, in coverage, I wouldn't like to see him drop too far into coverage.
No way would you want to see that.
No. But
it's not good. It's not pretty.
No. But say if you wanted him to cover like on passing plays, you want him to just keep an eye on and cover the running back, just in case he goes on a wheel route or he comes out on the flat. That's the type of linebacker you're looking at. And you could already imagine how that looks. And he's going to get over there quickly. He's going to diagnose it because he's instinctually he's able to see it. And he's going to go over and he's going to tackle that running back at the line of scrimmage, or at least only for a 1-yard gain. Very, very good at doing that. And when you think of how the NFL is evolving on passing plays with the running back, that's exactly something you need from your linebackers. And that's something he's able to do. But again, this is a guy who really is going to be in just pure run defense is what he's there for. He's not there as a pass rusher. He's not this trucking tackler either. Like, we spoke about ground efficiency or whatever you want to call it. That he's going to stonewall a running back and stop you going. But he's not the type of guy who will lay a truck down. And he's not going to smash through these tackles and you're going to see running backs winded or feel like they've just been struck by a truck or fumble the ball. He's just going to just stop you in your track, and that's it. That's it, plain and simple. He's not one of these turnover type guys,
Yeah. I mean, my kind of comparison for him and what I've seen of him, there's a bit of Luke Kuechly to him.
Yeah.
And like unfortunately, you also add in that Luke Kuechly injury kind of profile. You know, it's a concern that you're going to have to watch for. Like, he doesn't have elite speed. There are going to be issues going sideline to sideline, but it depends on who you partner him with in the
Yeah.
linebacking core, because he is a guy who can play all three downs, as you say. You don't want him dropping into coverage because that's not going to be pretty. So you want him picking up the tight end or picking up the running back on wheel routes or options. But I mean, there is a case to be made for Tommy Eichenberg possibly being the second best off-ball linebacker in this class.
You can. Again, this is all the combine. That I think with these linebackers, the combine is going to, and you're going to have to really keep your ear to the ground on this position for it. And that once you come out of the combine and you hear how teams are talking about plays, it's going to be the big giveaway of how things really look. Because at the moment, we don't have all that to go off.
No.
You just have the tape from what you can find, from investigating and asking around as well. But, these group of linebackers, there's like, right, you say, how you put them is like a Rorschach test, really.
Yeah.
It's whatever the beauty is in the eye of the holder on this particular case, and how you put them is and I wouldn't argue with you. I'd be okay, and you could make an argument for it to go either way. And Eichenberg is within that category of the second or the third off-ball linebacker who you see there. If you said he's better than Cooper, I could be like, you making that argument, I can agree with you.
Yeah.
Like I say, there's players better than Cooper, and Eichenberg in terms of run defense is better, but there's everything else that ties along with it.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I will hold my hand up and I'd say, yes, Edgerrin Cooper is the best off-ball linebacker in this class. And I mean, you know how hard that is for me to say.
Well,
I mean, Steve.
I tell you what, make yourself feel a bit better then, and talk about the Texas guy.
I will now in a second, but I mean, Stephen is saying here, look, I'd take a Luke Kuechly in a heartbeat, and I mean, I think that's what most of us would take, because allied to what Eichenberg can do, he has that high football IQ. He's a multi-year team captain, and that's what you want to see being brought in. And I mean, just something you said there, and it was something again that I wanted to allude to. When we talk about who the Cowboys are going to potentially take, we said get the list of who played at the Shrine Bowl, the Senior Bowl. Watch out for who they interview at the Combine. Watch out for who they bring in for the official 30 visits. Watch out who comes in on Texas Day. And that's pretty much going to give you 90% of who this draft class will be. You still with me, Mike? You've frozen there. I'm not sure if we still have Mike, but look, we'll move along. We'll talk about Jalen Ford in the meantime. I mean, Jalen Ford is a prototypical linebacker here. 6'3", 240 pounds. First team Big 12 in 2022. He was almost Defensive Player of the Year in 2022. Again, he's a sideline to sideline guy. He's a guy who can hit the line. He has instincts. He has a high football IQ. He has a guy in the building who is going to work towards getting him into the Dallas Cowboys in terms of DeMarvion Overshown. Himself and DeMarvion Overshown played as linebackers for the Texas Longhorns defense in 2022. So definitely guys to watch. I'm not sure if Mike is still with me. If someone can just send me a message and just say they're still hearing this, that'd be great, because I'm just talking to myself at the minute. But I mean, again, the concerns with Jalen Ford, it's sideline to sideline speed. acceleration, and he's not great at shedding blocks. Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Appreciate that. So, I mean, if you're going to bring in someone like a Jalen Ford, again, there's going to have to be a specific plan. And here's Mike rejoining us. Good evening, sir.
Hello. I've had to go off my phone. My computer has decided to go into a complete crazy flip.
So we've kind of given everybody the lowdown on Jalen Ford, what he can and can't do. But I mean, give us your own thoughts on what Jalen Ford is and if he's a potential fit, because I would imagine DeMarvion Overshown is already in the linebackers coach's ear.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm sure you're gonna like Ford.
Yeah.
The thing with me with Ford is that he's susceptible to being locked onto what the quarterback's doing.
Yeah.
So that means that from what I've seen on tape, you might be able to help me out, but
yeah,
I see that he's watching the quarterback, watching what he's doing, and he's completely missed everything else. Or he's reacted to a play action pass, or he's reacted the wrong way to the pass option, and he's going in the wrong direction. So I think, I don't know whether that's a lack of instinct or that because he's got a lot of short area quickness.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that he's going into these bursts and he's using his agility, and that's causing him to overrun or go in the wrong direction. I don't know which.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing, and you're right. You're dead right in what you say. I think in 2022, he had DeMarvion Overshown beside him, who was kind of that spy. He was the guy who watched the quarterback, and you were allowing Ford that option to rush the passer and to react to what was happening, in real time. He was quick, twitchy, that kind of a movement, that kind of a motor. Whereas without Overshown this year, he's kind of taken a bit too much of a look. He's giving up plays into the backfield quite easily, and Texas were beaten over the top on a lot of plays because Ford was too concentrated on what was happening ahead of them rather than kind of going, where's my position on the field?
Yeah. Again, I'm not sure where I would place.
Yeah.
It's 50-50 where I place Ford.
Yeah.
My computer's sorting itself out slowly. So it's difficult to say. Again, he's corralled. He's in this group of off-ball linebackers where we'll let the combine be the determining factor on which direction it's going to go.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of the thing. I mean, players will start ascending in the next couple of weeks as the combine happens, as we get those medical reports happening. And you'll see guys move up, you'll see guys move down. As we said, Nakobe Dean was the first rounder in 2022, dropped to the third. I'm trying to think of the other guy from Georgia last year. The corner was the first rounder and then dropped to the fourth. He went to that team up north as well.
On the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, I can picture him. But I mean, this is what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks: is guys who you think,
what's his name?
Our fourth round talents will climb. Guys who you think are first round talents will drop.
Yeah. Yes, very true. Yeah.
I'll get that name while you keep talking there.
Mate, you're okay because, like, at the moment, because my computer's gone into a crazy fit right now, and I know exactly what's wrong. I left my memory stick in with all my game tape on, so it's trying to run two things at once, and it's just gone into a complete panic attack. But
Keely Ringo.
Yes, there we go.
That's
Keely.
exactly who I was thinking of. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, we'll cover linebackers, I think, again, because there's enough
for
of
sure.
them that we need to cover.
Yeah.
Let me get my angle right. There we go. So we'll definitely cover them again. But yeah. I mean, that for me is the first crop, the first group, if you like, of important linebackers.
Yeah.
That you need to pay attention.
Yeah. And speaking of paying attention, I think for anyone who's watching tonight, please make sure and tune in on Thursday night, because I think Mike is going to have a special announcement for you guys.
Yes, about 2025. So
yes,
the details are in. I'll run a post tomorrow that'll have it all in, and then on Thursday's show we'll talk. So if people have questions, they know where to come and where to go and ask those questions about it all.
Yeah. Myself and Mike had a very detailed conversation about this last night, and believe me, what's being planned is going to be something you guys are not going to want to miss. But I mean, before we get out of here, Mike, we'll pay the bills and give our good friend Barry a shout out.
Let's do it. Yeah, if you're going to a game this season, make sure you book it with Cowboys Experience. They have game day tickets, stadium tours, meet and greets, which are a lot of fun. And they will bespoke your package to however you want, and they will get that organized for you. And because they absolutely love us and we love you guys, if you tell them you're with UK Cowboys, give them that code. They will give you, Brian. What will they give you, mate?
They'll give you chocolate pudding.
Yes, they give you and some free stuff.
And a lot of free stuff. Like Barry and the team over there will hook you up. You will not regret giving them a shout, going to a game with those guys. I mean, Barry is one of the nicest people we know in football and in life in general. Like we love talking to Barry. You know, he enjoys a good coffee and a drink and a chat with us. So we definitely would highly recommend it. Mike, do you want to give yourself a shout out for Thursday night's show?
Yes, we'll be on Thursday, 9 p.m. I do look like I'm in the tunnel. It's because I got my ring light, but my camera is in front of it, so I'm casting my own shadow. But we'll be on Thursday, 9 p.m. To do another draft show. Might try and get another special guest. I've been talking with somebody this week, so I'll see what their availability is like. And we'll just do some more. We'll do some more draft talk.
Yeah, and Mr. Paul will be back.
You are sorry?
Mr. Paul will be back.
Yeah, but apparently so. We have not seen him for a very long time.
Yeah, but I mean, look, folks, before we get out of here, the 2024 season is here. It officially has kicked off. You know, it's time to start thinking what presents you want on draft day, on Christmas Day, as Mike and I will always say. It is a good night from me, and I'll pass you over to Mike.
And it's a good night from him.
And good night, everybody.